Marty Supreme brings us into the high-stakes world of championship table tennis, and Timothée Chalamet will do whatever it takes, including screwing over every single person he knows, to prove he's the best. This one is a tense character study from half the duo behind Uncut Gems. Let's check it out. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I'm like Hitler's worst nightmare.
Nightmare?
I meant to say nightmare, but I hiccuped a little in the middle there.
I get the quote you're trying to do, but did I mishear him in the movie? But I'm pretty sure he said nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know you won't give me an extra go at this, so we'll just keep going.
If you ask nicely, I might have, but now that you've said that, no, we're just going to keep going. This is a movie podcast, everyone. We are working through a 2025 season, and today we get to one of the bigger names from 2025, and that is Marty Supreme. So that's what we'll talk about today. We'll start spoiler-free, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you enjoy the show, hit the like button on YouTube, helps out a bunch, and you can support us over at Patreon and get some bonus stuff, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, Marty Supreme, it's ping pong, and it's one half of the team that directed Uncut Gems, and this is an Uncut Gems like. Now, what do I mean by Uncut Gems like? I mean, the character is constantly spinning plates, and he's spinning more and more plates, and you feel like the house of cards is going to come tumbling down at any point, and tension arises because of this. And in this case, it's because he's so laser focused on becoming a table tennis world champion and proving himself in that field that he makes a mess of his life in every other possible way. And we'll just leave it there until we get to spoilers. But that is the, in Uncut Gems, it was gambling. The character was gambling and getting himself into, bad debts, and shady characters wanted money from him, and he was trying to solve problems by making more new gambling bets and whatnot. So yes, there's a lot of parallels between them. You can sort of tell that the same creative force is behind, or in this case, one half of the creative force. The other Safdie brother who did Uncut Gems went off and did The Shatter Machine, starring The Rock, that came out last year. So
all right, I don't remember that coming out at all, but fair enough.
I got a trailer for it a couple times. Didn't make the cut for this season. But,
what? A movie by The Rock isn't that good? Color me surprised.
I don't know, it may have been better than a couple of the ones we've done this season, to be fair. There's maybe one or two in hindsight I might have swapped it with, had I known.
You convinced me. We'll do the live-action Moana. You don't have to push so hard.
No, thank you. No, thank you, David. So, had you seen Uncut Gems? When I say Uncut Gems, does that mean something to you?
It means something to me, but I've never actually seen the movie. I've seen people doing breakdowns on the character and stuff like that, because I never really thought I would go back and watch it. So I'm spoiled on the movie.
Fair enough, but you know the gist of what it was. Yeah, so it's Timothée Chalamet is what I was trying to say
Chalamet.
there. Timothée Chalamet in the lead role here of Marty Mauser. Supreme is not his name, and I thought it was going to be, and I was surprised up front.
I thought we were going to have a scene somewhere 2/3 in where it's I got to get my brand, and he legally changes his name to Marty Supreme.
Because at one point someone says Mauser, and I'm like, who's this Mauser asshole? Who you talking about? Mauser. Yeah. So yeah, he's the lead role here. He's the one who's obsessed with the table tennis and going to the tournaments and all that kind of thing. But he's got a messy home life in New York, and that ends up being our larger focus more than anything, to be honest. It's kind of everything he messes up and ignores because he is so focused on going and doing the competition. So we'll get into everything, of course, once we get into the spoilers, but that is the basic setup of it. There's some other faces we'll mention, of course. We'll do a cast rundown in a little bit, but I think we'll start off with the simple question of, David, what did you think of Marty Supreme?
So, to make people aware of how much I care about modern films coming out in the general sense, I didn't know this was Timothée Chalamet. I had no idea that he was the main guy in this movie. I've seen the posters, and I just never put together that was him. B, I only knew that this thing was up for like a bunch of awards. That's pretty much the most extent I had really heard about the plot. I knew ping pong was involved, but that's about it. And then C, I didn't know that this was by the guys who did Uncut Gems. I had no idea that they were the ones behind it.
One of them.
One of them, yes. Which kind of goes into how I feel about the movie, which is I expected that I don't know why, I was expecting this to be a biopic sort of thing. Like, having, because it's, apparently it's loosely based off of some guy, and like, fair enough. Talking about someone who wants to be a ping pong champion feels like it's so ridiculous. It kind of has to be based off of someone real, because Hollywood's just not creative enough to do that. But as the movie was progressing, it just got so wild and so crazy and so out there that it felt more unreal than anything else. Did I like this movie? Yes, with like a question mark on it. I think that there's a lot of talent and a lot of skill in this movie. I think that it is something that is a very well-made piece, but the entire time that it was going on, I kept feeling this distance from it. Like, I never felt like I got truly invested in Marty's plot over the course of the whole thing. I appreciated the spinning plates. It's very well written, of these escalating stakes that just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But by the time that the end of the movie rolled around and like everything simultaneously became crashing down and also fulfilling things, like, I didn't feel like emotionally I was at a point where I cared about it. It just kind of felt like, and now we're at the end of the movie. So I don't know. It's in a weird middle ground for me, where I can recognize it's got a lot of good craft, but maybe just for me specifically, it just wasn't hitting me in a way that I really was invested that deeply.
Okay. It's I don't necessarily feel that differently, in the sense that I don't know how emotionally attached I am to the character and like the outcome at the end, but I also don't think in this case that mattered as much, in the sense that for me it is about the tension, the plate spinning, and seeing just how many awful, like how he keeps making his situation worse, and how karma keeps coming back for him no matter how many times he thinks he can get away with something. There's that element to it, but ultimately it was just a very slick movie with lots of style. I think the music is great throughout, both the score and the soundtrack choices. Repeatedly were just giving it so much life and energy. Performances were very good, and I like the spiral of it. I like the Uncut Gems spiral of this type of premise. But so I guess I'm more positive than you on it, because I never had any kind of like doubts about how I felt at the end. But I will say, it's not like I was like, I care about the lessons learned perhaps by the end kind of thing necessarily either.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, like, I could see me having much more like strong impact with this movie if it ended like 20 minutes earlier. I think the final bit, there's good stuff in the very final epilogue, but I think that the very final bit kind of felt like it was pushing me in a certain direction that I didn't feel the movie had properly earned for me at that point. But with all your other points, music, absolutely. It's got a very, I don't know if it's all 80s, but it feels very 80s, despite the movie being set back in like 50s, I think. Yeah. So it's got a lot of 80s to it. I love that kind of time period, the way they're playing that. And then, yeah, it's from a craft perspective, like I said, it's got a lot to it. It does feel like acting wise, everyone's delivering a great performance. Writing, it's very snappy, very repartee back and forth on it. And seeing the Rube Goldberg that falls out of each of his bad choices, how it just consistently gets worse and worse and worse, is always entertaining. Like, from a craft perspective, I've got nothing bad to say about it. It just is, I don't know, it's the same sort of thing of watching It's Always Sunny, except without the comedy aspect, where it's just, look at these horrible people and how their lives are actively making everyone else around them worse because of their existence.
Yeah, it's a 2.5-hour thriller version of like following an It's Always Sunny character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. It's a weird way to describe an Uncut Gems, like, but that's kind of what this is. And it's not just the Safdie brothers who make those, by the way. I watched a movie with Rose Byrne like a month or two ago called If I Had Legs I Would Kick You, and that's basically an Uncut Gems like, but for like a mother. So there's others popping up. This idea of the super tense, like personal drama thriller of the cat. I mean, I don't think we call this a thriller, but there's definitely the drama is so intense at points with the stakes and like everything spinning that it tips into thriller at times with some of the sequences and the kind of the vibes that it's coming from it. But yeah, this is the sort of movie where like I think you can clearly see why. At the very least, Chalamet is got nominated for stuff, right? Because it's all him. He's in almost every single scene. He's the center of focus every single time, and there's a lot there to work with. He's playing this cocky little shithead who thinks he's the best and is going to do anything he can to sort of like actually make that official, right? That's what he wants to do. He wants the power. He wants the illusion of the facade of like actually being on top in everyone else's eyes, and he already thinks he's the best, but he's and a big part of this movie is kind of a coming of age story. It's actually the one big thing difference. Obviously there's a lot of differences in plot and like individual aspects compared to Uncut Gems, but if I was to say what the biggest difference is this is a coming of age version of that type of tension, whereas Uncut Gems is more like, oh, this is a middle-aged guy who's already like ruined everything. He's downward spiraling. Whereas with Marty Supreme, you can almost, I mean, whether or not it's going to happen at the end or not, like there's almost this idea of like he's young enough that maybe he'll learn, maybe he'll finally grow up, maybe he will understand why this has went poorly. And there's some scenes that hint at that, even though there's several large segments of this movie where I'm like, this is ending with him in a body bag. Like I don't see how this is going to end in any other way. So no, and I agree, and that's part of why, and it's so hard to talk about without spoiling, but that's part of why I don't feel like the ending particularly got there for me, is that we spend 2 hours with this guy just doing horrible things the whole time, and I'm fine with that. It was a good 2 hours, but then at the end it's like, maybe I learned something. It's like, did you? At what point did you learn something along the way here? Because it feels like you just keep on doing bad things. Yeah, I mean, I think you can say you don't like the ending or don't feel like the ending fits maybe as much as you want it to, but still kind of appreciate the craft and everything building up to that point.
Oh, yeah. And I will, like, that's absolutely, like, and it's not even like I hated the ending either. Like, I can see where the ending could work. I just don't feel like it worked here. I don't feel like this is quite doing all the legwork that I would have wanted from it to get there.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have other cast members in here, of course, worth mentioning. We got Gwyneth Paltrow in here as kind of like a sort of famous movie star that he encounters along his travels. We've got kind of a, I mean, this isn't quite an accurate description, but I'll just say girlfriend for now. And when we're into spoilers, we can talk about it more in depthly. But yes, that character's name, Rachel, played by Odessa Azion, if I'm saying that last name correct.
Seems right to me.
Yeah.
But
she seemed familiar, and she's been in a couple of horror movies that I've seen. She was in the Hellraiser reboot in like 2021 or whatever that was, and she was in Until Dawn last year. So I knew I'd seen her in something, and that's what it was.
Yeah, I felt the exact same, but I'm looking through and I don't see anything that I saw her in, so she just seems familiar to me.
She may have guest starred in a TV show or something that you've seen.
I mean, I'm looking through her stuff. She has 4 episodes on the show Ghosts, which I was passively watching that. Like, my wife was watching it and I just tuned in occasionally. Maybe I caught her there, but that's it.
Yeah, so a name that actually I noticed in the credits and then didn't recognize in the movie because it's someone who I know as a director, is Abel Ferrara, who, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know he was still alive. But he's in here playing a character, but he directed a bunch of Driller Killer, the original Bad Lieutenant, like a bunch of sort of gritty, all very set in New York style movies for the most part. So him showing up as kind of this gruff old New York like gangster in this movie is like, yeah, okay, like this feels like it fits what in my head I think of Abel Ferrara is.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know him that much as a director, but like from a character actor sort of way, he is absolutely like to a T fitting this character.
Yeah, and I do recognize he's like, I didn't recognize him as Abel Ferrara, but I'm like, oh, I do recognize this guy's face. So maybe I'm just remembering him from interviews or stuff, but it also might be a case of like, oh, I have seen him play like character bits and something here or there along the way, but I don't know. I'm glancing at his acting credits on IMDb, and I don't think I've seen it. I must just be recognizing him from like, an interview or something that I've seen at some point.
Yeah, possibly.
But yeah. So yeah, that was a surprise to see his name in the credits. I guess other notable names in smaller roles. Fran Drescher's in here, playing Marty's mother, who I've never actually really seen in anything. I just, she got a lot of buzz a few years ago during the acting strike because she's the head of SAG, or she was the one doing all the press for it and stuff. And so like, I kind of knew her face, but I'd never seen the TV. I think it was The Nanny. I want to say is the name of the show she was on.
That was a big thing back in the 90s. Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even recognize her here. She plays such a character on The Nanny that as soon as she popped up in this, I saw her name and I was like, where was she? And when I finally saw who she was, I'm like, oh, that was her? Jesus.
It's not like a huge role. Like she has importance for Marty's character in terms of like what she represents and kind of stuff, but she's not like got tons of scenes and lots of dialogue to show off her thick accent that I know she has.
Other minor characters, Tyler, the creator, played a taxi driver who also is like a ping pong playing friend of Marty's. Yeah,
that's a very specific name. I'm going to assume he is famous in a different medium for something else.
Tyler, the creator, is a rapper.
Okay, good to know.
Yep. Who's the other one? Oh, Penn Jillette shows up as a farmer in one scene, and just for like anytime I see Penn Jillette, I expect him to be like playing a bit. He's not. He's, again, fully committed to the character here, and it's weird to see Penn Jillette like that.
You're saying this name like I'm supposed to know who this is. Whoa.
Oh, Penn and Teller? Are you not familiar with the magic?
Okay. No, I am familiar with Penn and Teller. I just didn't know that was his full name.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I thought that was more well-known than I gave it credit for.
I've heard of Penn and Teller, yes. I'm familiar with their duo, their magic act, but very good.
And then I mean... acting-wise, not a huge actor, but big role that we skipped over was Kevin O'Leary as big business guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. You're going to have to fill me in here.
So maybe he's done other acting stuff, but the big thing I know him for is he's a businessman, and his big thing is like Shark Tank and, Dragon's Den sort of.
Okay, so like, this was kind of like a fictionalized version of what he actually is.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, okay, yeah. Because when I looked at his IMDb, it just had a bunch of stuff saying self. So I'm like, oh, he's like a TV presenter or something. But that sounds more specific what you've said.
Apparently, they added a new section to his wiki page for filmography specifically for this movie because he's never actually acted before. And he does a good job. Like, I would have been convinced he had other acting career before this.
Yeah, because his actual acting roles is only like 5 things in IMDb, which is wild for someone of his age, because he's in his like mid-60s or whatever he is. So he's like,
oh yeah, I'd say later
when did you start acting? 61?
Apparently 2025.
So I didn't know who that was. That's, I guess, I mean, I'm sure these American versions of some of these shows are probably aired somewhere in the UK, but I'm not channel surfing and finding them, so I didn't know who this guy was.
Literally the only reason I know what it is because for some reason YouTube decided in its algorithm that I was really into Shark Tank for like a month, and I couldn't convince it otherwise.
Fair enough. I will say the cinematography is very good. It's very kind of like intentional. There's a lot of intense close-ups. There's a lot of like really milking the drama out of things, and the camera work doing a lot to go with that. One of the things that I was finding impressive, though, is during the actual table tennis matches, is sometimes the camera would literally just be panning back and forth between the two players as the ball was going back and forth in such a way that I felt like, oh, that's very impressive. And part of me was thinking, I bet the ball's CG. I bet they CG'd the ball in after the fact so they could just do what they wanted to and then just, touch it up after.
Look, there is literally no easier thing to CG than a ping pong ball. It is absolutely the simplest thing to possibly CG. As long as you know where the people's paddles are, you can just go, there it is. You don't even have to do anything.
And that was the right choice, don't get me wrong. But it made some of the camera work feel really, like, not impossible. I wouldn't say it was like that impressive, but just if this was really playing out and they had to hit these marks, it would almost be not so much for the camera, but the actors would have an impossible time hitting these marks if they were actually having to hit the ball back and forth and make sure it was going where it was meant to go. Because typically what they would do in old sports movies is that you'd have a lot more cuts. You'd be cutting around so that you can sort of fake where things have been going so that you can get the moments you want. But here, there was sometimes long shots of the camera just going backwards and forwards, panning left to right. So it's like, either they have rehearsed this game so well, or they're just adding the ball in later, and they're just, playing it like a dance up until that point.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the shots were legitimate. But yeah, for those really long ones, I'd imagine they were like, nah, just do it in post. It's going to save so much time to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, no, I mean, that stuck out to me. And, I think they do a decent job with the period piece stuff. It doesn't dwell on it too much, but there's never anything that kind of betrays it. At least nothing that was catching my eye anyway.
No. And I also feel like this does a good job of, while, again, not dwelling on it, getting that sort of darker, grimier side of New York rather than the whole spark and lights or whatever like that. Because, this guy, he's not well off. He's not living on the uptown side. He's very much going through alleyways and stuff throughout. And I feel like it did a good job of kind of honing in on how cramped everything feels living there rather than making it feel like this wide open city. Yep.
So, I mean, as far as anything else goes, I mean, performances are good, like we said. The script is very tight. Now, it is 2.5 hours long, so you can maybe debate about, is there any way to trim that down a little bit and get it a bit more cohesive. I will say that the movie kind of neatly falls into, like, it's hard to define exactly how many it is, but there's effectively, like, different threads that are all interweaving. So different characters that Marty's in, like connected to. So, he's got like a plot line running with Gwyneth Paltrow's character. He's got a plot line running with Rachel's character. He's got a plot line running with the dog, like sort of plot line. And he's got a plot line about just trying to, get into the tournament with the business guy and all that. And all of these things kind of like sometimes intersect. They sometimes bounce off of each other. Sometimes they're kind of on their own, but they're always like weaving in and out. So they all, like, it's almost going to be impossible to talk about this in order because I feel like because of the way it was like bouncing around things so quickly that I think that's quite difficult. Yeah.
Some could say it's ping-ponging back and forth, Pete.
I knew...
You say bouncing around and weaving, and I'm like, come on, man.
I knew halfway through, before I was done talking, that you were going to jump in at the end and make a pun about ping-pong.
I was smirking before you were halfway done. Clearly, that's what I was going to do.
And I hope you'd show restraint, but I'm just disappointed.
That's fine. I'll live and die on this hill. I'm all right with it.
That's fine. That's fine. But honestly, I feel like everything else is into spoiler territory, so I think we should probably just give the spoiler warning. So is there anything else you would like to bring up before we cross that line?
I guess the only thing, and this is maybe, again, my expectations, I didn't know that much about the movie going in. I expected ping pong to play a larger part. Maybe that's just me, but like, the movie kind of more or less begins with ping pong. And then I'd say for like 90% of the movie, it's just like a backdrop. It's essentially just the MacGuffin skill that he has rather than actually playing ping pong being like a major factor of it.
Yeah, that's not a critique. That's just your expectation. Yeah.
No. Yeah, it doesn't change whether or not the movie's good or not, but it kind of goes hand in hand with that me expecting it to be like a biopic sort of thing, where it's just coming into this, like, as the movie progressed, I'm like, oh, this isn't at all what I thought it was going to be. This is entirely separate.
Yeah. I never thought, I didn't even know it was loosely based on a real person, to be honest. So I had no expectations of feeling, and even if I did know it was based on a real person loosely, knowing it was a Safdie brother, I just kind of had an expectation more of like their previous movies rather than anything else.
I feel like if I watched a trailer or something like that said from the director of Uncut Gems, I'd be like, oh, okay, got it. Now I understand. But I didn't, so I didn't.
Okay. Well, we'll get into the spoilers then. You've been warned. Spoilers for Marty Supreme from this point forth. We'll get into it. And there's so much to talk about. We've got spankings, we've got honey licking, we've got...
Oh, I forgot the honey licking scene.
We've got an opening title sequence where we watch a sperm travel the great journey.
We get to watch a human conception before the opening credits are even done.
So yeah, there's a lot going on in Marty Supreme, and that kind of becomes a bookend because ultimately ends with him seeing his baby for the first time, and maybe he's finally going to grow up and like take care of the baby. But then we're way away from that here. We can talk about a lot of stuff before we get to that.
Oh yeah, no, I do think that gives a great like immediate thing of how long this takes over the course of. Like the movie itself kind of plays fast and loose of like, maybe it's been a few weeks, maybe it's been a few days, da-da-da. But beginning to end, this movie is 9 months long.
And to be fair, most of that time is a montage after the tournament early on, right? Because by the time he gets back to New York, it's like maybe a week or two of like being in New York for the rest of the movie.
Right.
So, yeah, so a lot to get into here. Marty's character constantly finds himself, and it's admittedly more so once he gets back, even though there is definitely some stuff he does when he's in the tournament. But once he gets back, the movie becomes about, how's he going to raise the money so he can go to Japan for the next World Tournament and also get out of these other jams. And so many of the messes that he kind of like started to make before he left at the start of the movie have blossomed into big glorious messes that are all trying to get in the way of him doing what he wants to do once he does get back. But I mean, at the very least, though, we can take it section by section. I think we have the pre-tournament, which is not much, but it's important what's there, which is he's working in a shoe store, which is owned by his uncle, and he is excited because at the end of the day, he's going to like get paid for his last week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, of his work. Probably more than that, because I think he says it's like $700, which 1952, that must be like...
Oh, yeah. No,
that's a while.
He's been working here for a while, and he's just like, yep, the only reason I'm doing this is to be able to go to the tournament. And like the uncle tries to like bait him of like, I'll make you store manager if you stick around. And he's like, nope, screw that. I got dreams.
I'm not a shoe salesman. He says wearing a shoe salesman outfit.
Yeah. Holding a pair of shoes.
Yeah, but Rachel shows up, right? I was supposed to see his girlfriend, which I guess it kind of is, but like obviously it's more complicated than that because she's also married to someone else. But they make up some excuse for him to take her back to like the stock to find her shoes that she left. But you can kind of tell, like, even before they close the door and they're clearly sneaking back there to avoid the uncle, it's like, no, this is a ruse. This is all just a ruse to get alone time. That's all this is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It probably is just the fact that she is young, attractive, and the same age as Timothée Chalamet. But I'm like, yep, they're clearly up to something.
Yeah, well, obviously in the moment I was thinking, why are we going to this effort other than just because it's exciting and cheeky? And then obviously later you find out, because she's married, so they can't just go to her place.
Right.
So it's like, okay, all right. And then of course they start having sex in the aisles of the storeroom, and we cut to Marty's supreme sperm swimming its way.
Yeah, no, it's a full sequence. You want to know where the money went to? It's the CGI on this sequence. This is it.
Yes, and then we get a ping pong ball with the movie title on it that goes by.
To be clear, really want to just emphasize here that the order of events is the sperm penetrates the egg, zoom outshot of
and
the
egg becomes
the ping pong ball.
That's a good detail. Yes, you're right to bring that up.
Yes.
Yep, very good. And that sets us up, and it's like, okay, but there is a very interesting bit here in this opening section that I would like to point out, is that he gets a call. I think it's when he goes to the ping pong place early on before he leaves, but he gets a call and his mother's claiming that she's sick, right? And the mother's friend or neighbor, whoever she is like, your mother's sick, you better come and take her to the hospital. And he's like, well, if she's sick, just take her to the hospital then. Why do I need to be there for that? And, he's basically calling bullshit and doesn't believe that she's sick. And we see the mother sitting there by the phone, clearly this is a ruse because he's not around often enough. She wants him home, so she's making up some excuse to drag him back home. And throughout the rest of the movie, all I could think was, so this is something he learned from his mother. The way he is. Now, don't get me wrong. I am 100% sure he has taken it much further and done more extreme versions of anything she's ever done. I have no doubt of that. But this core mechanic of her lying about being sick to get what she wants for him to come home is exactly how he does everything in the rest of this movie.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, later on in the movie, he pisses off his uncle who runs the store. We'll get to that in a second. But the uncle, like, pays a cop to come in and basically scare him to come back to work for the store. And he's like, nah, I didn't pay this cop. The cop you committed a crime. He's just arresting you for the crime. And then as soon as Marty's out of earshot, he's like, here's $10 more. Thanks for showing up. Yeah.
So it's like, people in his surroundings have taught him this behavior. He has just taken it to the utmost extreme. And it's actually why at points I was even kind of sympathizing or rooting for him. Not the whole movie by any stretch, but certainly during that cop bit when he's like first back in New York and they're trying to stop him from going back to the tournament. And now I'm going to force you to stay here and work in the shoe store.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? You're kind of getting in the way of his dreams and like abuse. Like you're trying to use shady tactics to do this, even though he did something wrong. Like I don't dispute that, but I'm kind of wanting to root for him as a bit of an anti-hero at this point. Now, as the movie goes on and he does more and more shitty things, it gets much harder to want to root for him, to be honest. But
yeah, like at beginning of the movie, a lot of his schemes are based around like schmoozing and just trying to like convince certain people to give him the money for the sake of it. And for that stuff, I'm like, all right, look, he schmooze, fair enough. If he's got the charisma, he can make it work. And then he just gets more and more blatantly illegal with his actions to make it work. And it's like, all right, well, at a certain point, I'm going to draw the line. I can't say exactly where it is, but it's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, he just gets more and more desperate as well as the thing. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that, of course, and I wanted to mention just kind of, obviously when he goes to it's London is where the tournament's been held for this championship.
Well, to be clear, his uncle does not give him the money before his uncle like leaves for the day. So he has to threaten the other shopkeep guy to open the safe at gunpoint. And he's like, look, tell my uncle it was a robbery. Just give me the $700 he owes me and I'll be out of your hair.
Yeah, and in the moment, it felt like the uncle did this intentionally. Because the uncle convinced him, no, we'll settle at the end of the day. I'll pay you at the end of the day. And then conveniently, when he came back, the uncle wasn't there. Although he did also, like, just disappear for all the back half of his shift and went and did other things.
I think the other shopkeep guy says, well, if he didn't take that 5-hour lunch.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, right, so he's done this, so there's going to be consequences for this when he gets back, and that's fine. But he goes to London and he's appalled, right? So this is the thing, he's a bit of an egomaniac, he's a bit of a narcissist, and, well, he's a bit of an American. He expects everything to revolve around him. So he's upset he's sharing a room with someone in the housing they give all the players, to the point where he goes up to like the English guy who's like, I don't even know what he's in charge of exactly, but he's in charge
in charge of the tennis table association, like the whole league.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, I'm like your like star player here because I'm poised to win. I'm the best. I'm going to be everyone. And why am I not being treated like royalty? You're all staying in the Ritz, and I'm staying here in this stupid bunkhouse. And this guy, understandably, is like, why are you coming up and talking to me like this? Like, you're not that important. Leave me alone. And I guess that's another big theme of the movie, is that he's convinced he's already important when he's not actually earned anyone's respect yet.
Yeah, it's this... ego's the right term for it, but it's specifically this ego where if he doesn't feel like he's being treated fairly in his own mind, like what he deserves that he should get, he is absolutely unwilling to back down from that until he gets it.
Yeah, he will yell, he will talk over people. He is insufferable to a point.
He will go around people's backs, he will take other means to do what he has to do.
And I was actually a little confused at this part. Maybe there was a line I missed that explained it up front, but he actually moves into the Ritz, and I was like, how did he do this? And I was sort of like speculating, like as it was playing out, how it happened. It becomes clear later when he gets fined. It seems like he's claimed that the association were going to pay for this, and then they've found out. Because what I thought he was doing is that this was just a scam where he was like, because I thought it was maybe he's using a fake name and he's just going to run away at the end without paying, kind of thing. Or something like that,
No, I think that it's during the interview, because there's a short little interview as they're at the bottom of the Ritz where he does say like, oh yeah, they cover for their star players, of which I'm one of them.
Well, yeah, but I just thought he was lying for the press. I didn't think they were literally paying for it.
I until he went up to the room, I fully expected him to like walk over to the elevator and stand inside of it, and then once they're out of eye shot, he just dips out.
I thought he was doing that as well. He was just pretending, but then he went up to her and was like, oh, so he's scamming the hotel, or he's and whatever. But I don't want to talk about this interview scene, because there is a blinder of a line in the middle of this where
I was curious if you wanted to bring this up without monetization problems, but please go for it.
Oh, holy shit, this line. So they're asking him, and he's being really cocky and talking about how he's the best and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hey, you've got the semi-finals, because we've already seen one of the rounds, like, so we got a montage already. He's like, yeah, you got the semi-finals tomorrow, and with this guy who was the world champion last year, are you worried? He's like, no, I'm better than he is, and blah, blah. And then out of nowhere, keep in mind, this is the early 50s, right? It's 1952, so it's not that long since World War II, so that's an important, relevant point for this, is he says, I'm going to do what Auschwitz could not. And there's an awkward pause, and then he says, finish the job. And I went, what the F did you just say, Marty? And then he leans in and goes, oh, I'm Jewish, I'm allowed to say that. I'm like, what? What? You can't just say that.
Yeah. His competitor is Jewish. And like at that point in the movie, you're like, oh, that's bad. That's really bad. And they call him out by saying it's bad, but he's like, yeah, no, I'm Jewish. It's okay. Fast forward like 2 more scenes, and we find out that not only was the guy he was talking about just Jewish in general, as we assumed, but he also was actually in Auschwitz.
Hey, maybe it says something about me, David. I didn't need that reveal in 2 scenes because I believed him when he said it here. I thought the reason why this was so shocking that he said this is because the press all knew that he'd been in the camp.
I mean, I didn't pick that up from this scene. Yeah. I thought it was just this generic thing of like, oh, you're Jewish, it's okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then to say like, no, he is the tattoo of the numbers and stuff. It's like, oh, you're just the worst kind of person.
Oh yeah. This was a horrific thing to say, but I mean, it like, not that I was bored or anything, but it definitely put a shock to him. I was like, wait, what did he just say? And the press, they kind of lap it up and whatnot. But this is obviously where he sees Gwyneth Paltrow walk by, and she was a movie star in the 30s, which I guess, that would be the 90s compared to now. Or not even that, but 2000s compared to now. Anyway, so she's walking past, and he kind of looks at her and turns around, and he looks at her some more, and I'm like, okay, clearly he's infatuated. Where's this going to go? More on that in a minute. But this is a big scene for setting up his character and setting up kind of the tournament, and he's telling everyone he's going to win, and he was promising that he'd come home with shit tons of money because he's going to win the prize money and all the rest of it, which obviously tells us all watching that he is not going to win this tournament, because then there's going to be so much conflict when he's not got the money that he owes everyone.
In fairness, he went into this tournament and it seems like he was confident he could beat everybody that he knew was going to be at the tournament. However, because we're in post-World War II period, he didn't expect there to be Japanese players there. And apparently the Japanese are just really, really good at ping pong.
They Pearl Harbored him.
Yeah.
It was a surprise attack. See, get the joke?
Oh, I gotcha. I get it.
Look. After what Marty said in the movie, that wasn't even like showing up on the Richter scale, that line.
Of course not. Like it's miles down beneath, but it's still miles above where you needed to go.
But I actually, because that's in the first montage in the first round before the interview scene, is one, I love the music in this scene. It almost started sounding like the music from The Thing, like the bum bum.
Yeah.
But then like a sort of like synthy melody came in, and it was like, oh no, this is very different now. But it started off sounding like the music from the John Carpenter's The Thing. But it's sort of playing as he notices like the people cheering over at this other table, because there's like 12 tables, whatever it is, of people playing at the same time, and he sees the Japanese player, and he's like, whoa, and he's like staring very intently, and watching how he's holding the bat or the paddle, whatever you want to call the damn thing, and it's like, oh, he's a little bit concerned, he's a little bit shook by this turn of events. So that sets up that he is a little bit concerned about this unexpected element that he wasn't anticipating. So
yep. And I mean, just if we just want to wrap up tournament real quick, we can go back for
all the Paltrow stuff.
Yeah, the Paltrow stuff is that he does end up getting to the finals. He does a little thing with the one guy, his friend,
in the semifinals.
At the semifinals where they just do a little bit of trickery of like crazy shots.
Yeah, I get it, because it's like the second last point, and I guess it was like a foregone conclusion at that point that like Marty was winning, so they're like, hey, do you want to just show off for this, like, you know, last round? And they just started doing, it's like, oh, we'll hit under the leg, you'll turn around, do it backwards, and we'll just show off how good we are. And they, you know, hug afterwards, and it's a whole thing. Yep.
But then we get to the Japanese player, and he just cannot get anything going. Like, it's just point after point for the Japanese player, and you can see how shook he is. Oh, yeah. Eventually...
It's not even competitive. He loses, because it's like best out of 5, he loses 2 in a row.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, it's not even like a lot of points right off the bat. Like, you got to get to 21 points, and he's just like 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, 0 to 4, 0 to 5. And by the time it hits the end, I think he gets up to like 14 or whatever, but it's not even like a match point, like where they're only 1 point away. He just got stomped by this guy.
Yeah, it's like he scored a few times after there was already like a 20-point lead, so it was like meaningless. You know, it was like, you maybe you get a little bit of pride back, but like you have no chance of actually fighting back from this.
And then immediately he just goes on like the warpath. He like throws a trash can into the middle, starts complaining how they were cheating and all that. And then it goes to a newsreel of the Japanese player, like a Japanese newsreel basically saying like, the player returned home and he's welcomed with honors, but he's just going back to his job because he doesn't care about all that.
Well, yeah, because you see, it's like the old timey parade footage of like crowds gathering. He's in a car waving at people, and it's like, no, but he just wants to be a humble, you know, like watchmaker or whatever it was,
craftsman.
Yeah, and it's like. And it's a nice contrast actually at the end, because when Marty comes home at the end with the US military, it's almost like a parallel to that earlier scene, because he's coming back more humble. Yeah. Anyway.
But it's also immediately showing off how worse Marty is at taking this, because the other guy's like, yeah, I'll just go back to my job. No big deal. Meanwhile, he lost and he's still trying to ride the high of being in the finals and how he got cheated out of it.
He's like, he cheated. I'm going to be the face of this in the US. This is a growing sport, and it's just about to hit the US, and I'm poised to be the face of this sport.
And then Forrest Gump shows up.
Yeah, this is better than Forrest Gump. I'll say it quite happily.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so to go back, though, a little bit in the hotel, is that he makes the ballsy move. And obviously, this is an unlikable move because we already know that he's kind of with someone else in an unofficial way. So it does feel a little bit skeevy that he's even doing this. But he just calls Paltrow's room, just calls her up and says, hey, we saw each other in the lobby. We made eye contact, you know, and she kind of explains to it. And she's like, I'm not interested. Like, she just tries to like basically get rid of him as quickly as possible. And at one point she even says, wait, what age are you? And he's like, I'm 23. And she just kind of chuckles at that, and it's just kind of like, oh, this feels like not a hope. Now, admittedly, it's a movie, and I'm expecting it to still go there somehow, but in the moment, it's like, yeah, how is he going to pull this off? And he does a whole thing where he throws an apple in a bowl on another room across the way.
It just feels like he's showing off his coordination or whatever, because he's managed to convince her, because his picture was in the paper. It's like, yeah, I'm a bit of a performer too. I'm a world-class athlete. Why don't you come on down to the game later on and I'll show you what it's all about.
Yeah, and he's straight. It's not even like he's asking her on like a little date. He's like saying, come to my room, which is basically come and have sex right now, even though we've never actually spoken to each other before.
I love the back and forth there, which is, yeah, why don't you come up to my room? Oh, I don't think my husband would like that. Oh. And it's like, yeah, maybe I should send him up to the room instead. It's like, yeah, he can come there. I'll come down to your room. Like, he just keeps swinging no matter what's given him.
And obviously, I think that's maybe the seed of winning her over a little bit, is this determination. But the big thing is that when he's at dinner that night, he's with the other guy in the semifinals, his friend. He sees that she's there in the hotel restaurant, which, by the way, is why he's saying to his friend, order anything off the menu, doesn't matter how expensive it is, because he's putting it on the association's bill. But he sees them over at this other table, and he's like, hey, waiter. And I love that it's not even their waiter. He just shouts over one of the employees that he sees at another table and says, hey, the Rockwell party, I want to pay for their meal all night. And it's like, okay. So the guy goes over to tell the party, And Rockwell comes over to like ask like, why? I don't know who you are. Why are you paying for a meal? And as he's over there talking to, and there's a bit more in that conversation, but as this is happening, Marty's looking over casually at his table that he's left, and Paltrow's sitting there just like looking over at him. Like, this was a power play. Like, he was making kind of a move, and this was for her benefit. This was all about impressing her. And he's talking to the husband right now, and this leads to her just showing up at his room that night in a lingerie, ready to go. Like, this completely does something for her.
It's in miniature what we're going to see in the rest of the movie, where, okay, his goal is he wants to impress Paltrow. Mm-hmm. And so his action is, I'm going to pay for table stuff. But then the unintended consequence is, now you've gotten the husband involved in your life, and how that's going to make things worse down the road. And it just keeps building and building like that.
Yeah, and I think there's a nice parallel that builds up between him and Paltrow's character, where she wants to be an actor again, and like she has this dream of doing that. And I think as the movie goes on and we go through kind of like because they kind of have like three chunks together, right? We have this, and then when he's back in New York and he goes to see her rehearsing her show, and the reason why he's there is actually to try and talk to the husband, which we'll get to all that stuff separately. But, he kind of like steps in after the rehearsal, and she's frustrated that her co-star's not doing very well, and he kind of like steps in and kind of like backs her up and puts on a bit of a show and shows off by like flipping the fake knife up in the air and all the rest of it, and kind of like speaks on her side. And again, it's this kind of show that impresses her, and it leads to like her asking him to lunch, and then just smash cut to them in the shower having sex. Like, again, the passion, the thrust of passion is taking them. And
it's his youthful confidence. That's the thing that she admires in him, of like, anything is possible. I think if I just go out there and do it, it's all going to work out. And she, who has already been taken in and washed out of the acting world, and once back in now, she's like, I admire that aspect. That's the part that gets her. Yeah,
but after this is when it kind of falls apart, because he starts like asking about, because he's like, oh, you're doing great, like, you'll be good in the show. And the subject of like why she stopped acting comes up, and she talks about how, well, I got pregnant, and the husband convinced me to kind of like stop, basically, and whatever reason. And he's like, oh, you cashed out. There's no shame in that, but I don't want to cash out. I'm going to like do everything myself. I'm not going to accept help from anyone because I'm just that damn good. Or that's not the exact line he says, but it does feel a little judgmental. And it, like, credit to the writing here, because the thought I had is basically what she says like a minute later is, you sound young. You sound young and naive and think you're invincible and can take on the world. And this movie is going to spend the rest of its runtime humbling your little egotistical ass, because that is like what you sound like right now.
Quite literally, actually, it does that. But yes,
it does actually do that at one point. But it's so wild that her husband kind of gets revenge on him, but he never actually finds out about the affair. He's just getting revenge for his own petty reasons, which actually, so you can't even enjoy it like, oh, Marty's getting what he deserves, but the husband's doing it because he's also a bit of a shithead. So you can't even say it's just deserved. It's playing, egos upon egos and whatnot. So
yep.
But she leaves the scene disgusted with him, because she's like, oh, you sound like a child, and like, well, clearly I'm old enough, like, because you came down here for a romp or whatever. And she's like, oh, you're disgusting, and she leaves, and it's like a whole thing. It's like, and I thought, oh, that might be her exit from the movie. I thought that might be the end of that.
He intended it to be the exit, because he stole her necklace and only found out that it was like a prop necklace where it was completely worthless.
I love that reveal, because he takes it to the pawn shop, and the jeweler guy's like looking at it. He's like, yeah, this is a fake. And he's like, it came off a millionaire's neck. Why? How could it be a fake? And I was thinking, oh, is it revealing that that like they're not as rich as they seem, or she's like whatever? And then like the idea is like, oh no, it was a prop, because she literally went to that like lunch from performing in a play. It's just a prop necklace.
So then he turns around, and eventually, it's much later on, but eventually he comes back and he's like, I took this necklace intending to sell it, but
just to be clear,
I just couldn't stop thinking about you.
He comes back and does that because so much other stuff goes wrong, and he is so like down on options that his big play this is much later on, like you say, his big play is to try and pretend that he did something bad, but has had a change of heart because he's guilty and he cares about her and he doesn't want to. And she sees right through it. She's like, "Oh, really? Like, you're lying through your teeth. Like, I don't buy a word of this."
But it's premiere night and her emotions are running high, so she's like, "Whatever, get a ticket." And then inside the ticket it says, "Meet me at Central Park after the show."
Yeah, which, when she shows up, she's brought him a real necklace. She's like, "Hey, this, every year he buys me a super expensive necklace. I've got like 25 of them. It doesn't mean anything to me, and this will cover the cost of your trip. This will get you there." And I do like that, she doesn't come across as an idiot here. She comes across as someone who understands what Marty cares about and what he needs, and sort of is accepting him on the terms of what he actually is, and is like, "Okay, so I'm giving you this. This is a gift. You can take it. No hard feelings." And this,
and like you said, that came after so many other things. This felt like the only genuine win he had in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's and I do actually think like his instant desire to kiss her, like, that wasn't necessarily like a bad thing in and of itself. Like, it felt like no, he's overcome with emotion. This is actually him like finally getting a win. He finally has something that'll pay for the trip, for the fine that he owes, for all the hotel shenanigans that he pulled, all that stuff. They start getting frisky in Central Park. He's got under her dress, and then 2 policemen show up and like go to arrest them, and they recognize her, and she's like begging them, like, "Hey, let me go get my wallet and I'll just pay you off, please." And they end up taking the necklace, and I'm like, oh, like Claude defeat from the jaws of victory. Yes, like I was like, oh, and honestly, the last like 40 minutes of the movie's like that. He keeps like almost like having an out, and then it just goes to shit because of something else, coming into it.
God, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse every time. And there's certain points where he even does get another victory, but like I'm so convinced the movie's about to rip it away that I'm like, there's no way it's gonna happen. Yep.
So he has the gall after this where she's like now freaking out, and she's like, "Oh, I need to get back to this party that they're throwing for me because it's premiere night. I need to get back." He's like, "Hey, can you get another one of the necklaces? You said they didn't mean anything to you. Can you?" And she's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Okay, fine, but I can't just come back down right away. Just wait down here, right? I can't just disappear from the party again." And she goes in, and like first her husband's like, "Where have you been? You're making me look a fool. The third party's here." But then it's like, "Hey, we've got like the editor of the newspaper on the phone. He's going to dictate the review to you." So she goes over to listen to that, and we cut away back down to Marty, and Marty's like, "Oh, this is taking ages. I'm getting antsy here. I'm just going to go up to the party," even though I was told explicitly not to do that.
Well, it's not even just that. He explicitly hears people walking out saying, "Party's over, everyone's coming down," and he's like, "Excuse me? She was only up there for the sake of the party."
So he goes up, he sort of dodges the husband seeing him, and he's looking for her, and all we see, and this is her final scene of the movie, is she's crying like behind the door. We see like through the door she's crying, people are consoling her, and someone says, "Hey, it's not the right time to come and talk to her, go away." And I'm like, on his face you can just see it is like, "I'm not getting that necklace." Like, and you assume she got a bad review and that's why she's crying, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, she was chasing this dream, and it's not the exact same as him chasing his dream, but she was chasing this dream of being an actor again, thought she was still a hot shot, and that's the way she treated her co-star on the play, like, "Oh, I'm acting circles around him, why is he not doing better?" So she relates to Marty in a way that no one else really is, even though she is older and she's sort of already been there, and kind of like, she's trying to recapture it again.
But it's one of those things where out of all of the characters, because I said that most of them are worse off just for having known Marty, she is worse off, but it feels like Marty is incidental to this happening. Like, this would have happened no matter what.
She's a victim of her own, doing here. In the same way that Marty's a victim of his own doing.
It feels like the only thing Marty did was pumped her up a little bit. Just like made that fall just a little bit worse, but it still would have been bad.
He was I think he's a bad influence, right? It's this kind of them interacting with each other is probably bad for both of them, I would suspect. But ultimately though, it's not really anything to do with him. I mean, maybe after like their first little thing, that was part of the spark of like, yes, I want to go and try and act again. Maybe it is like it wasn't influenced by him, but it wasn't any necessarily kind of like maybe he said one line of like, oh, you should just act again if you want to, but it wasn't like something where he sat her down, convinced her, no, you need to do this because it's part of his plan or anything like that. It was so so she's left there crying, and it's like, okay, that's a dead end. I need to be leaving for Japan tomorrow potentially.
So rewind to the beginning of the businessman plot.
Yep, that's exactly the place, because this is where it all comes crashing together.
So go back to that breakfast where he's paying for the Rockwell's thing.
Yeah.
Rockwell comes over and says, why are you paying for me? And he's trying to schmooze. He's trying to do whatever. He's saying like, yeah, table tennis is upcoming sport, whatever. And we just have to mention it here. It's not really to the plot, but the guy that he's also having breakfast with, his friend and the guy who was in Auschwitz, he says, hey, tell him that story. Tell him about you defusing bombs for the Nazis in World War II. And he tells this story about how the Nazis would send him to defuse bombs like way away from the camp. And one day he followed a honeybee over to the hive. He had some cigarettes, so he smoked them all out. He then lathered honey all over himself. And then the business guy's like, why did you, what possible reason did you have to do that? And he's like, oh, so when I went back to the camp, all of my fellow prisoners could lick it off of me for sustenance. And this shot goes on for like 45 seconds of this hairy chested man having honey licked off of him by numerous people.
Yep. It definitely is a striking visual. It definitely feels like this man is, so selfless and looking out for his fellow people that he was willing to do this, as weird and as unsanitary as you might consider it, which is the total opposite of Marty, who is not lathering himself with honey. He is throwing honey on the other person and hoping that he gets results from it.
Yeah, it's literally smash cuts to the honey being licked off the body to the Gwyneth Paltrow going up to his room to have an affair. Like it's just showing the contrast between the selflessness of this guy and the selfishness of Marty. Yeah.
The important details though for like the plot with Rockwell is that Rockwell owns like a pen company, right? Rockwell Pens or Rockwell Ink, and it basically Mauser or Marty's like, hey, ping pong's growing, it's a big sport, you should come and see the finals and blah 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 blah. Maybe you could do some marketing with it, because sometimes this way you hold the paddles, kind of called the pencil move or whatever, and blah blah.
He literally brings that up. He's just like, yeah, the Japanese hold in the way it's called the pen holder move, and he's like, and it's like, and you can use that. That one's for free. And he's like, why would I use that? What, do you think everything about pens is just going to automatically translate to marketing? But then as he goes to the thing, he sees Marty get absolutely trounced. And then fast forward to being in New York, he invites Marty out for a lunch and is just like, I did my research on ping pong, and yep, I'm in. I'm ready to invest in this.
Yeah, he wants to basically expand his market to Japan. And he's like, hey, I've got this idea, right? So the world tournaments in Japan next year, and about a couple of weeks before, I want to do a big promotional thing. I'm going to have pens, paddles, balls, all the rest of it, and I want you to do an exhibition match with the guy who beat you, right, with Endo. And it's like, okay, all right, so that sounds like a fun idea. He's like, hey, I'll pay you $1,000, I'll fly you there to Japan, and you make a bit of money. But then he kind of like makes it clear that it's not a real match, and the point of it is that you need to lose again, because we don't want to upset the Japanese audience who are going to be watching this. You're the villain, you're there to be the villain so their hero can win, and then they'll all buy my stuff. Right, that's the ploy. He's basically trying to fix it like a wrestling match, and Marty, of course, has an ego, and he's like, no, I can't look bad like right before the tournament. Like I have to have drama and suspense for the tournament. And all I could think was like, but if you're seen as a loser getting into the tournament, wouldn't that be like a big underdog story, which would also be very dramatic?
Yes, but like I think you still hit it with the nail on the head of his ego would not let that even momentary loss.
I'm just fighting his logic that he says is his argument more than anything. But
I think at one point in this movie he does say like, yeah, I'm always thinking about the drama. I'm always thinking about how best to present the drama of it.
So it's like, okay, all right. But he's like, no, I'm not interested in this. And basically, it's a really awkward end to the scene where he tells him to shove it, effectively. And it's like, it leaves him this cold note.
there was a little bit earlier on, right before the match happened where he lost. The other guy was convincing him like, hey, we got this offer to play for the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, we'll be there in between during halftime to like show off our skills, whatever. And Marty just shuts it down. He's just like, they are clowns. They're great athletes who are forced to act like clowns around the world. We will never lower ourselves to that. Fast forward to this point. He's like, I refuse your offer because I have a very lucrative deal with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, basically once he's lost the tournament, because actually this meeting wasn't in New York. This meeting with Rockwell was in Paris, because this was when he was still traveling with the Globetrotters. So
yeah,
it's this segment. You get a montage of them like just putting on a show, using like pans to hit the ball or doing trick shots.
Plays against the walrus at one point.
Yeah, and like, intentionally loses and goes, "Law, look at me! I get beat by an animal." Whoa, whoa, whoa! That's like.
Yep.
So yeah, you will lower yourself, but you have to be beat into it first. Like, you just won't accept that it's a good idea in the first place. You have to hit rock bottom to accept, the humiliation. And because you turn this down, it only leads to more humiliation later, which is what we're building up to here. Because when he sees,
just to really quickly say, the whole reason he was doing that was to get the money to go to Japan. There's a scene interstitial where he loses that money. And so the rest of this is where the rest of the movie happens. Of he needs to get the money to go to Japan again. Yeah,
because that's why he runs into Gwyneth Paltrow at the rehearsal. Is that he's there to try and beg Rockwell to, hey, like, I've thought about your idea and considered that maybe we should do it after all. And he's like, well, that's in a couple of weeks. I've already made other plans. Like, this is too late. You had a chance and you shot it down. And Marty like keeps talking, tries to convince him, and eventually Rockwell's like, okay, you know what, fine, get in the car and we can talk. But as soon as Marty like walks around to get to the door, he just says, okay, go. And I'm like, he's already figured out that Marty's a little shithead. Like, he's already decided this, and Marty's not got a chance in hell of convincing him of anything genuine. So that's that shot down, and then other stuff in the movie plays out, and then fast forward to all the other Gwyneth Paltrow stuff where she's ends with her crying behind the door. He realizes he's not getting that necklace. Time's running out, and he gets that look in his face. It's time to make a big play. It's time to do something bold. So he goes downstairs to where Rockwell is with his buddies, these other rich old white men, and effectively just begs, please, sir, I'm desperate. I don't even have a way to get to the tournament. I need this job. I need to get travel. Yeah, I'll do anything.
I will literally. If you want me to debase myself, I will debase myself. If you want me to lose, I will lose. You tell me what the line is, and I will absolutely do it. Just please get me to Japan.
And finishes off with "I'll do anything," and that makes him chuckle. And this is where you can't even really enjoy this, like if you want to see Marty get comeuppance, because it starts to feel like a bunch of rich billionaires. Although it's the 50s, so probably just millionaires, but it's equivalent to today, billionaires.
Yeah.
It feels like, this is like, a bunch of rich assholes who like humiliating people, and they're all chuckling as he's like, hey, go to my office, Marty, and get me my my ping pong bat and bring it back. Yeah. And you know where it's going. Marty's not figured this out. Marty walks back with this, not even knowing where this is going. And I'm like, he's going to spank you in front of all of his rich friends. That's what is about to happen. And he does. Like, he's like, hey, like, if you're promising me a trip in your private jet and all the rest of it, sure. Yeah. And he pulls down his trousers.
And yeah, he just does it. But like, I think that this is, again, the idea that every action he does makes things worse, and it makes the consequences that much bigger. If he had accepted the deal back in Paris when it was first accepted, all he would have had to do was lose that one match, and then, like you said, he could have gone in, win the entire rest of the tournament. But now he is forced to take this public paddling in front of these guys, and apparently, out of the movie, that was actually Chalamet. Like, they offered up a stunt ass, and he said, no, I'm gonna do it. So kudos to Chalamet.
Wow.
But yeah,
he might just like that. That might not be a kudos thing. He might have been like, oh yeah, I'll have the old man spank me. Like, he might be into that.
I'm assuming that because the other half of the story was not, and he was escorted off of the scenes for being a bit too excited, I'm gonna assume that he was making a sacrifice play. But I mean, beyond that, like, yeah, it's just everything has escalated up to this point, and it's an immediate, because it's the exact same deal. Like nothing has changed in the deal except for how much more torture he is to be put through now.
Yeah, and of course we find out once he actually gets to Japan and he runs into the British guy who, like, you know, he was rude to and was the head of the association, and he's like, oh, I'm going to, you know, like, it's not real today. I'm going to lose up there, but I want you to know it's pretend, but I'm going to do a good job in the tournament in like 2 weeks. And the guy's like, you're not in the tournament. And he's like, what? It's like, it's in 2 weeks. The brackets have been made up. You've not entered. Like, we can't.
You had an outstanding fine for $1,500 and we banned you.
Yeah, and because it's this realization that he's been operating under this idea: if I can get all the money together, even if it's at the last possible minute, I can still get in the tournament. I'm like, no, you'd have had to have paid that months in advance. You'd have had to have, like, you know. Like, and even if you paid it, they might still say, "Oh, you're still banned for 3 years. We'll see you in 1956 or whatever the year it would be." Right. But it's like he just is like completely defeated, and it feels like this is such a cell phone. Like, you just assumed that you could still get in there. This just shows how obsessed you were without actually thinking about how it worked.
He's the number one American player. He just assumed that there would be a spot for him, but it's like, well, no, not if you're a dick.
Of course he's the number one American player. He's the only American player.
Forrest Gump is in the wings waiting.
Because that's what I liked about that scene, is this pompous guy who, and I say pompous because he's got a bit of a posh accent, but he's completely right with his reaction. He's like, why am I putting up with you talking to me? You're so entitled. Go away.
Oh, yeah. No, he's like the only character in this movie who, at the beginning, when Marty is complaining about the rooms or whatever, he's like mid-sentence, and the guy who was on a phone call is just like, okay, I'm sorry about that interruption. He doesn't even like give Marty the chance to continue on with his act. He's just like, nope, I'm done. Moving on. Yep,
that's exactly how it should be. So that's how he ends up getting to Japan, is on the private jet. And we'll come back to what happens in Japan otherwise.
Yes.
We'll save that for the end. So we'll go back to kind of, I guess we'll call it the personal life / the adventures with the dog, but mostly Rachel stuff. When he gets back to New York after he's been touring and he's earned some money, his uncle was waiting with his police friend who he's paid off to, like, arrest Marty when he gets out of the shower. And it's a whole thing where it's basically like, hey, you've got two choices. You can be arrested, or you can accept that you're going to come work in the shoe store, and I'll even make you, like, you know, a manager, and I'll give you more responsibilities and all the rest of it. And not only that, the uncle goes into his bag and takes out all of his earnings from his trip, with the Globetrotters, and says,
pay him back for the robbery.
Yeah. And he's like, this is mine now. And I'm like, oh shit. So this is now going to be Marty, like, scraping together for the rest of the movie, trying to, and he has obviously various different attempts. We get a chase sequence here where, like, he says, oh, okay, let me get changed, and he goes into the room, but he, you know, jumps down the fire escape. So we get a whole sequence here.
We get police chase. He meets up with Rachel. She's working in the pet shop. This is the first time he's been home in like 8 months, I guess.
Yes, exactly 8 months, because we see she's got a big belly, and you know, when she comes into the back room to talk to him, she's like, aren't you going to say anything? And he kind of pauses, looks down at her, is like, congratulations. And
immediately follows it up with, it's not mine. Like, it cannot possibly be mine. And then he starts like blaming her, saying like, do you have sex with your husband? That seems more likely to me, because I always pull out.
Yeah, I pull out. Does he pull out? Does he pull out? Tell me, does he pull out? Like, frantic.
And then as he finally, like, she starts to like cry because of all this happening. He finally goes to comfort her, and then the husband walks in and is like, what the hell's going on here?
And she's like, oh, his dad just died, and like, oh, we've known each other since we were 8, so I'm upset about his dad dying. And the husband's not really buying this. And the husband, like, wants to pick a fight, and like, Marty,
he saw Marty running down the street away from the police, so he's like, all right, screw this. Hey, cops, he's in here.
Yeah. Well, he gets to that, but I want to point out first, though, that Marty, like, when the husband looks like he wants to pick a fight, Marty, and this has been through the whole movie, and it only gets worse, is that he has a smart mouth where he can't help but try and provoke the reaction. And the husband he's sort of presented like the big angry husband who's going to want to just punch him, but he actually stops and thinks about it and says, you know what, I'm just going to walk outside and yell for the police. And Marty realizes that and goes, shit, that was actually really smart, I need to run away. And he just bolts out the back, and we get more of a chase, and he hides in garbage and whatever else, and it's like a whole thing.
he escapes the cops. He calls one of his friends to like come and meet him at this really discount hotel, and they basically set up a plan that they're going to do some hustling up in New Jersey for some extra money for ping pong and all that stuff.
Ping pong hustling is a time-honored thing, which actually also sets up the other subplot, if you want to call that, with the dog, because so Abel Ferrara's character brings his dog in, and they're in the room underneath where Marty's room is. And Marty's told when he's given the room to not use the shower. And to be fair to him, I also thought that meant you can use the bath, you just can't use the shower.
I don't think he would have cared. I don't think that would have made any difference.
But to me, that's not, the floor might collapse because of the weight of the water. I thought it just meant the shower's not working. Help yourself to the bathtub.
Yes. So that's the thing is he the friend who's played by I already forgot his name. Tyler the Creator. There we go. He's reading off some of the mail, which ends up being that massive fine for the Ritz Hotel, saying that he's banned and all that. And so the only way now he has to get the money to pay off the fine and also get to Japan on top of that. So he needs even more money now. And that's when all of a sudden the tub collapses, falls through the floor, lands on the guy and his dog. Both of them are, well, the dog's fine, quote unquote. The guy's arm is all busted up and broken. It
lands at like an angle, so Marty ends up like butt naked, like helping him pick up the bathtub so he can get his arm out. And as people are helping him, he's yelling, "Oh, my dog's sick, he needs to go to the vet, and Marty's like, "Oh, I don't have time, I've got stuff to do." And we know Marty's like too obsessed with what he wants. But then the guy's like, "I've got money though, I'll pay you for it, I'll pay you 50, and then I'll give you another 50 to pay for the dog's vet bill."
Yeah, he's talking to the hotel manager trying to get his $2.50 deposit back. And then this guy's like, "I'll give you $50 if you take him to the vet." He's like, "All right, let's see the money."
And he's got, that's where you know he's probably a criminal though, is he's like, "Over there in my bag," and he opens the bag and it's just a bunch of cash in a bag. And he's like, "All right, okay, you're clearly someone who's a bit more, organized crime or something. I don't know, whatever."
Yeah. So they take that money, they go to their hustling spot anyway. They don't bring the dog to the vet. They're just like, keep him in the car. We'll take him after we're done. And they use that money to hustle basically this entire bowling alley, which also has ping pong tables.
Yeah, it's a bowling alley, but instead of pool tables, it has ping pong tables. But yeah, the whole hustle is that they go in as if they don't know each other. And it's a whole thing where they're going to put on a bit of an act where Marty plays the asshole who's going to take Tyler the Creator's money. He's going to take everything he's worth.
Plays the asshole.
Well, that's why he's so good at it, is because it's very natural. And everyone else wants to stick up for him because they get, Tyler Creator's like, "Oh, I don't even have money to get home now. Like, can you give me 5 just so I can go home?" And everyone's like, "Oh, just give him it." So eventually one of them says, "You know what, I'll play and like win some of your money back for you." And it ends up and people start making side bets, and it's like all this hustle to just get everyone. Basically, this is the funny thing about what earlier on when I said the businessman wants him to play the villain because it'll be good business and it'll make everyone want him to lose so that they can profit off him losing. That's effectively kind of what they do here. He doesn't lose, obviously, but they make everyone in the group that's watching hate him so much they want to bet against him. And it ends up, he plays the villain so that when he wins, they win all the money. Of course, the downside to this is that when they're riding back together in their cab, singing and dancing with all their money, the car with a lot of these guys pulls up and sees them driving together and realizes they've been had and get very upset.
They were already coming to hunt him down because they were like, "I recognize you. You're like a world-class ping pong player. You hustled us. Give us back our money."
Which they happen to be at a station when this happens, and Marty, his way of getting away from it is to spray them all with gasoline and then jumps in the car. And the dog ends up jumping out of the car in all the commotion and runs away, which is an important plot detail. It's very important that the dog goes AWOL here.
I thought for sure that was just going to be a thing of like, oh, he failed to do the thing, like, and maybe that would put him in hot water with the guy. But like, yes, but also so many other fallouts from this.
Yeah, I actually thought because he sprayed the guys with the fuel that they were going to also like go up in flames when the fire spread. They didn't. They were kind of standing in front of it. You could see that they were okay, but I was like, damn, I thought he was going to like burn like 3 people alive there by accident.
It'd be a hell of a turn. So he goes back. There's a ping pong hall that he hangs out at. Apparently Rachel knew that he'd be there, so they meet up, and we find out Rachel's been beat by her husband because he, found out. Oh, that's the other thing we didn't even mention was, oh no, sorry. I think it happens right after this. When Rachel says she's been beat, he goes back home, grabs a suitcase.
Okay. Deal. She's got a black eye. Like it's a visual thing. It's not just that she says it, right? Right. And after this, he sneaks back to his apartment building where his mum, because they all live in the same building, and he basically just grabs one of his old trophies, it looks like, and goes to the husband's door, and as soon as he opens the door, just whacks him hard in the face and says, "Shame on you," or whatever the line was.
Yeah, no, it's literally shame on you. And to be fair, if everything that was presented was true,
it's the most likable thing he does in the movie, honestly, up to that point.
Exactly. It's the only thing that does not have an immediate gain for him. It is out of genuine desire to get justice for someone else. It has nothing to do with him individually.
Yeah. Although it is worth mentioning, I think you were about to say there that because he found out about who the baby is, that's not actually he doesn't know that yet. Maybe he suspects something at this point, and that's what she's claiming with the black eye. I was
going to get to he found out about her and Marty, but technically he hasn't.
No,
so
that comes later. Honestly, while he does have he kind of talks like a bit of a dick in the couple of scenes we get of him early on, there's actually no evidence for most of this movie, once you actually find out that she's lying here and she put makeup on her eye, that he's ever actually done anything. Because even in the scene where he might fight Marty, he's like, no, I'm just going to actually report you because you're clearly running from the police. He actually doesn't do anything at any point that's technically villainous.
No, he's 100%. He's probably got some problems in terms of not the best relationship with Rachel, but beyond that, he seems like he's actually doing all the right things here. Seemingly.
So for the next little bit, and I actually really like this segment of the movie, is that Rachel kind of sticks with him, even though she's 8 months pregnant. They kind of become this duo for a little while when we see that she's kind of into pulling the scams and going along with his stuff as well. One of the scenes we didn't quite mention at the start is that Marty's got a friend who's got a kind of a rich dad. This is the one that he kind of convinces to make the orange ping pong balls and brand them as Marty Supreme, because he'll be a big hit once I'm a superstar, and they'll be my special ping pong balls. They go to his friend's house, who still lives with his parents, and is like, hey, can she spend the night here, because she's 8 months pregnant? And he's like, oh, I'm not meant to have any people over, and so on, and blah blah blah. But he talks his way in, he agrees to let her stay, and that's kind of where things get set up for the next portion of the movie.
They just set this up for the next 2 days while they try to sort out what they're going to do. And I'm pretty sure the first plan that really comes out of it is they figure that guy is so rich, he's going to offer a reward for finding the dog. So they go out to look for the dog.
Yes. And they try and find the dog. They ask people who work at the station and stuff like that. But they notice a house that's nearby, right? And sort of in the sort of farmy area with the crops. And they're like, oh, let's go over there. Maybe whoever that is saw the dog. And he goes out and snoops around the house. There's no one in, but the dog's there. He can see the dog in the window, right?
Yeah, it's barking. So he's like, oh, the dog's inside. I was like, good, we found it. Great.
But then the owner of the house comes back and immediately is like, get off my land, you're trespassing, I'm not having this. And he agrees that he'll go in and talk about the dog, but obviously this is just him getting to get his shotgun, and he comes back out he's like, get off my land. So
yeah, that's the thing. Again, Marty is actually for once in the right here. He's lying about the situation. He's like, oh, it's our dog, we were looking for it. In the same point, he's just like, oh, you found the dog, it's there. And the farmer, who's played by Penn Jillette, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, that's my dog. What do you mean? He's like, no, it isn't. What are you I can see the dog, I looked in your window. And that's where he gets really pissed off about trespassing and all that.
This is the thing, is that had he at this point went to Abel Ferrara's character and said, hey, your dog ran away, but I know where it is. It's in this house. I can tell you where it is, and if you want to go deal with it. Obviously, yes, this guy's a vicious gangster, it turns out, and maybe it would end in, lots of bad stuff, but that wouldn't be on Marty per se. But because the plan is, no, we're going to phone Abel Ferrara's character and pretend we found the dog and trick him out of paying a reward for it without even having the dog.
Right. That's the thing. They were absolutely going to do this plan already, but now they're like, all right, we don't have the dog. We got shot at by this guy, and we also wrecked the friend's car that we stole, so we got to deal with that as well. Like, everything, again, just piling up, it's getting worse. And when this fails, they're like, okay, how do we come up with something where we talk to this guy and be able to do this without having the dog present? And Marty's more or less just like, screw it. This plot thread has run its course for me. Yeah. I have nothing else I want to do here. I'm done with it. Let's do something else.
Yeah, and it leads to a whole blow up at the back at the friend's place, where like they end up waking up his parents, and because this scene actually ends with a great visual of his friend like throwing the box of orange ping pong balls out the window, and they all land outside in the street. And because they're bright orange, they really show up under the streetlight as they're bouncing around. It's a really cool visual. But he's basically like ready to abandon Rachel at this point and like not have anything to do with her going forward.
She, during this sequence when everything goes wrong at the friend's house, she starts crying to really sell the act, and then her makeup starts running, showing that the black eye is not a black eye, and he's like, "You played me,"
which is rich coming from him, that he gets to be upset about this, because this is exactly the sort of shit that he pulls with everyone else. This honestly is kind of just desserts in a lot of ways. If anything,
absolutely,
it's almost endearing. She's trying to do his kind of act to win him over. Like, it's actually kind of a thing. Now, admittedly, I immediately felt bad for the husband, who now has like a very horrible wound in his face that he didn't really deserve. But
that's immediately where my mind went to. It was just like, oh, that husband got like, it looked like when we left him, he was choking on his own blood. I hope he's okay.
Yeah. And he's like, well, like, we're done. And the interesting thing here is not only does he effectively abandon her and she begs him not to, right? That's like a thing that happens. She decides to try and do the blackmail, the dog ransom plot, right, on her own.
She's convinced that this guy doesn't know what the dog looks like enough that she can just get a fake one and have it stand in.
So she makes a whole meet with him, and they're a public place, and he comes up and he's got an envelope with money, although it turns out to be a couple of notes and then just lots of like photos behind it to give it some thickness. And
she's really pushing to see it. She's just like, you got to show me you have the money, because like I've been scammed before. And he's like, I'm not gonna scam you, I just want my dog back. And then he absolutely tries to scam her.
But like, she's like, hey, okay, my friend's going to like bring the dog out of the restaurant over there, and like this guy comes out with a dog, and it's not the exact same dog, and he can but he's storming closer. And as he's getting closer, like, things are ramping up. She tries to, like, she's kind of watching for a bit, actually. She literally tries to run away once she sees how badly this goes. But Abel Ferrara just pulls out a knife and stabs this guy who's got the dog, and like, you try to mess with me? Like,
and they make it clear in the movie, this is not one of Rachel's friends. This is some rando who got conned into holding the dog temporarily. He had nothing to do with any of this.
And I'm like, oh man, you tried to pull a Marty thing, and you like immediately, and she tries to run away, but the Abel Ferrara's like henchman or whoever like grabs her immediately, and we sort of leaving a bit of a cliffhanger there. And then other stuff with Marty like plays out with the Gwyneth Paltrow stuff and all that. And
that happens.
But he's had his spanking. He knows he's got a private plane to take in the morning. And you're like, okay, seems like, as much as it's humiliating, it seems like he's solved his problem at this point. He's just going to go and hang out somewhere until it's time for his plane in the morning. It would be a shame if some other plot thread came back in and forced him in a position where he might miss that flight. Now, I was actually surprised they never leaned on that idea a little bit more, that he might like be tied up in this so long that he'd missed the flight. They never kind of went quite as far with that. But basically, Abel Ferrara shows up saying, I've got your girl, and she tells me you know where the dog is, so we're all going to go together, or the girl gets it. And he tries to like do the thing where he's like, oh, just let me go do this thing first. And he's like, oh, I'll let you do that thing first, but I'm going to go downstairs and beat her head in with a bat or whatever it was.
It was beat her stomach with a hammer.
Oh, his stomach with a hammer. There you go. Yeah. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to get away with it. All right, I'll just come right now. He just kind of gives in.
That's crossing my moral horizon. All right, I'm with you. Let's go.
And I think it's a really interesting piece where they go to this house, and you're like, okay, there's going to be like a showdown here, because this farmer dude's clearly going to come out blasting. And
it's two crazy people who are willing to resort to violence immediately.
So yeah, there's a shootout, and like everyone's basically been shot. Even Rachel in the car has taken a bullet to the shoulder. Now, it doesn't look like a bad wound in the sense that, okay, as long as they go to the hospital, she'll be fine because it's not a serious like location. But
the farmer was using like shotguns, so there was like a few pellets. It wasn't like a full-on like bullet.
Yeah. So Marty's like crawling around in case there's the guy's still up, and he gets back to the car and he's going to leave with him. She's like, "Oh, the gangster's got money and he's in her pocket," and he crawls back in danger to try and get this money out of his pocket. And then he gets it back, and we find out that most of it's not actually money. It was just an illusion.
All of this was for nothing. All of her plot ended up being for nothing here. But he takes her to the hospital. She has to go into surgery, and they're basically saying...
Begs him not to leave. Like, and he's
begs
like...
him, but they're saying, like, you can't come in. We're in the operation room. And she's just like, please don't go. Please don't. And everyone else is saying, it's okay. He'll be right here. Notably, he does not say that.
And she knows that he won't be there. She knows that he's going straight to Japan. Yeah. She knows exactly what his plans are.
Yep. Although I don't think she actually knew that this worked out. Like, I don't think she knew that he had a way to be able to get there. Maybe it came up in the car ride.
I don't think it mattered, because I think it's just the idea that she knew that he was going to keep trying, even if like he hadn't like solved something yet. So
yeah, probably.
But he goes to Japan on the private jet, and they're doing a whole thing here where he's going to like come up. It's almost like people in the crowd are lining up to challenge the champion. So the idea is he goes up in a hat and whips off the hat, and he's like, "Aha! It's me from last year." And best part of it is that they don't really like. No one really claps because they don't recognize him. And then he goes over to the big photograph of the last year's tournament and points at himself, and they all go, "Ah, yeah, it's him! Whoa,
it's him!" And then he does the whole thing. He does the whole whatever, playing the villain. And at one point, I guess the main guy, the Japanese guy. Endo, I think his name is.
Yes, Endo.
He's also in on it, but I guess a little bit was added without his knowledge that he's going to have to like kiss a pig or something when he loses.
And I want to point out as well that the conversation with the British guy where he finds out he can't be in the tournament happens before the pretend match. And I actually thought that, he's going to play his best because he realized that this is his only chance. This is his only stage where he's going to get to perform and prove that he can beat him. So he's just going to do it. If anything, I was surprised that he actually went through with the, I'll throw the match. I'll do the exhibition like they want me to.
Yeah, because it showed, he specifically says during the conversation with the British guy, like, the score's going to be 14-21. Like, we've already decided that's what it's going to be. And then you see when we resume, like, we skip ahead in the match, it's 14-20. And then he ends up losing the final point. So he obviously went along with it.
Yes, and he also had to agree, like you say, that the loser has to kiss a pig. And you can see when they say that, he's like, I need to what? And it's like, and I almost feel like Rockwell, the business guy, just threw that in to further humiliate him because he still hates his guts. And it's like, okay, all these reasons for him. And after the match, he starts yelling, "This was all fake. This was all fake. You want to see the real match, don't you? You want to see that." He whips the crowd into a frenzy. There's a small group of like American military who are in the crowd as well, and they're kind of like cheering him on. And he convinces Endo to agree, like, I want to have the real match. I don't want to just fake it.
And he even specifically, I don't know if he calls out to the crowd, but he at least says to Endo, like, I'm not going to be in the tournament. Like, they're not letting me in. I can't do that. This is going to be our only chance. Please let me have this. And Endo, being a stand-up dude, is like, all right, let's do it.
And there's a great little moment here where, seeing that this is going to happen, Rockwell, who didn't want this to happen, like, comes backstage, and just before the real match is going to start, he comes up to Marty, and Marty's like, "Hey, I know I'm not going to get paid. I know I've already like sort of thrown that away." And he's like, "Yeah, you're also going to be stranded in Japan because you're not coming back on my jet." And do you want a secret, Marty? Do you want to know a little secret? Right? I'm a vampire. I've been alive since 1602, and I have met so many Marty Mousers in my time, and some of them like crash out, some of them realize they should get in line and do what they're told, and you're like, win or lose, you're not going to be successful here. Like, you have completely, you're a loser. You're always going to be a loser, kind of thing. And now I get that he's just, it's not a literal thing, but I'm going to choose to believe that he is a vampire, and this is canon, that he is actually just a vampire.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. If he led off with, like, look, I've got the quote up right in front of me here. If he started the quote with, "I'm a vampire, I've been around forever, I've met many Marty Mousers," I'd be like, okay, it's metaphorical. Yeah. Like, fair enough. That's what it is. But he leads off specifically with, "I was born in 1601. And I'm like, that's very specific. I don't know where you pulled that one out. I'm going to choose that it's true.
Yeah. It's just funny to me, the idea that this is a very kind of like serious, relatively grounded movie. But there's just that character's a vampire. just cause.
It's business vampire versus Hitler's worst nightmare. Like, I don't see.
Yeah.
This is absolutely like a sci-fi crossover.
So yeah, he leaves off in this point of like, win or lose, like you'll never be as happy as you think of the thing you're chasing. You'll always ultimately be disappointed.
It's always going to be chasing the next high. Like, you're never going to be content with what you have. And that's, I mean, over the course of the movie, that's kind of been what it has been this whole time. Yeah. Like, at the beginning, he had a job that was willing to promote him to manager. He was making a decent amount of money for it. He was well known in ping pong circles. He was doing the tournaments, and like that would have been fine as well. And he had
the job offer to do the exhibition thing and get into the next tournament. He could have kept riding that, but no, he kept going to be. He wanted to be the exceptional wunderkind. He wanted to be the one who was propped up on a stage and like, you're the best of us. We treat you like you're a mega star. That's what he wanted, and he kept chasing it.
And he at this point here, I don't think the movie quite did enough to get us to the point that it feels like it's saying it, but it feels like Marty is at the point of saying, I've been through so much shit over the past few weeks here that like I have to see this through, but then come out the other side, I am actually going to be able to move on. Like it's actually reached that point.
I don't think he knows that before the match, though. I think that's something he realizes when he wins, right?
Yeah, potentially.
Because they have the match and it gets competitive, right? He loses a couple of points up front, but then he starts really fighting back, and it becomes this thing where the Japanese crowd is cheering, the American soldiers that are there are cheering. It's going backwards and forwards, and he ultimately it gets close, right? And we're building up to kind of the final points, and
it's 20-20. You got to win by 2.
Yeah, and of course, afterwards he kind of falls to the ground the same way that Endo did when he won at the tournament at the start. And Endo comes over and like they shake hands. He's like, "Oh, you're a hell of a player." Like Marty actually sounds like he respects his opponent, which is nice. And it's just there's this moment where he's sort of like enjoying the celebration of it, where you can just see the look in his face of like, "Oh, I need to go home and like take care of the kid." It's like it's all maybe you could interpret as like he feels the rush of success of finally doing the thing he said that he's been rushing to the whole time, but it's like, oh no, all those other things that I've been ignoring and the messes I've been making are still there. Like those are still like, do I care about Rachel? Do I actually care about like this kid? Oh, I do. Oh shit, I better actually go do something about that.
Yeah, it does such a great cut here where as he's like standing arms raised in front of the crowd, the audio is playing him calling the hospital, checking in on Rachel. So like, even if it happened further down the road, took a few minutes, mentally, visually, we're at a point of the first thing he's thinking about after this is done is, okay, what did I leave behind? What all is going on there?
Yeah, because I think the big important thing is that he is like put everyone else like in situations like his friend, he ruined his cab because it got half destroyed when they were driving away from those guys that were chasing them. So and that was his way of living, that his friend was a cab driver and now his car's been heavily damaged. So it's like, oh, he screwed him over. Rachel, he got her abducted by a gangster and knocked up, I guess.
Left in a hospital. Yeah. And also by that point, the when she was originally making her plan to go after the mobster guy, that's when she confessed to her husband, like, it's not your baby. So
that's right.
That's completely ruined now as well.
And the entire apartment building hears that fight, and like, Marty's mum's like on the hallway, and he comes out and says, "Oh, congratulations, you've got a grandkid on the way." To drop that in.
And when finally Marty does get back to the States, he goes to the hospital. His mother is outside the delivery room. Yeah. Like, she knows she should be there. She knows he should be there. And finally, he does end up getting there.
It's very symbolic, like her just quietly watching him go in the room, like, oh, you're here to actually, take care of your responsibilities, kind of thing.
Like, no one had to force you to be here. Like, she didn't have to get on the phone and say, like, oh, your wife is dying, or not wife, you know what I mean? Baby mama is dying in the delivery room or whatever. Like, no, he just showed up because he knows he should be.
Yeah, it's obviously it's still messy. There's still things to untangle. She's to divorce her previous husband, assuming they're going to become a thing. and so on. But it does feel like he is taking some level of responsibility here at the end and finally realizing he needs to be there for someone else and not for himself.
Yeah. I mean, even the score, I feel like, is doing a good job, where the beginning of the movie, when they're hooking up in the back room, it plays Forever Young, which
yes,
has the lyric, I want to be forever young, which, again, this shirking of responsibility, this idea of just staying in the moment and not thinking about the consequence of what happened next. And then the ending theme is everybody wants to rule the world. And I mean, me personally, I love that song, but it brings on these ideas of, okay, we, had our fun, we did our thing, but now we are looking back at the consequences of our actions to get to this point of success, to do this big thing.
It's literal, but in his case, he wanted to rule the world. Like, he was trying, that's what he was trying to achieve. Not in a literal, I'm the dictator way, but like in a, like, I want to be on top of the world kind of way. So, yeah, I mean, it fits very well. Admittedly, I don't know if the scene of him seeing the baby, because the movie ends on the shot of him seeing his baby held up to him, and he kind of starts crying, looking at the baby. I was like, yeah, this makes sense to end it on this moment. But I wouldn't say, like, I guess for me, the scene of him holding Rachel's hand and saying, I love you, was a bit more, because, like, I've actually seen how he's treated her, and how her trying to win him over has made her kind of act more like him, and how it's, like, important that he does come and actually be there for her and help her actually in her time of need is more meaningful to me than just kind of like, oh, I need to be a father to the baby now, which I guess is a bit more just taken for granted.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the ending bit of showing the kid specifically is to show, like, he's thinking outside of himself. It is, here's this thing that he's brought into the world. He has to take on this responsibility for it, and he's choosing to, rather than being dragged along kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and he hitched the ride with the military, who fly them back, because he's with a bunch of soldiers. So when he's getting off the plane, like, all the soldiers are reuniting with their wives and stuff like that, and there's flags and fireworks everywhere, and he's just walking seriously because he's on his way to the hospital, and it very much contrasts with all the showboating and all the I'm important, business from before.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, that is Marty Supreme. But it's funny at points. It does have a laugh here or there, which is good.
Oh yeah,
and it has the spinning wheels is the spinning plates, I should say. Yeah. That's the main thing for me, is this idea of him, like, he's got this going with Gwyneth Paltrow, and he's got this going with her husband, he's got this going with this gangster with the dog, and it's all kind of feeding back in and out of each other. So it's very intricate as you're bouncing around throughout the movie.
That's the thing of us breaking it down plot line by plot line. It does sound very separate. It sounds like each of these things is independent, but it's the growing desperation from Marty that fuels each of them along, so that they can continue to get bigger and bigger.
He only goes
across each.
back to one character because the other plot went so badly that he's like, oh well, maybe I can salvage something with this, like, other character over here. And it kind of keeps bouncing forward that way. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's very, very, very well done. A very solid movie. So cool. All right, David, what are you rating Marty Supreme out of 10?
Boy, it's a really good movie. I think there's a reason that I've been hearing about it. Out of all the movies that we did this season, I didn't hear about any of them until the Oscars hit recently, and then one battle after another, winning a bunch of stuff, just kind of shoved it up into the front of everyone's mind. But I mean, it's just a really solidly made film, top to bottom. I really don't have much to complain about, so I'm going to give it a high 8.5. I don't think I'm quite at, because the only time I gave a 9 this season was for One Battle After Another, and I think that one had like a deep resonance with me. Like, I really enjoyed something about what the movie was saying. This one, I can respect the craft. I could say it's as amazing as it is, but it didn't have that same sort of resonance that would get it up to the 9.
But do you think it's the second best movie that we've done this season?
Well, I've gotten a couple other 8.5s this season, but compared to Sorry Baby and Sentimental Value, they're such wildly different movies. It's so hard to compare. I'd say it's definitely got a chance of it being that. I'd really have to sit and think.
Yeah, because I don't think I gave those 8.5. I think I just gave those 8s, if I recall correctly.
You gave an 8 and a 7.5.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, this is. I think I'm going to say 8.5.
Okay.
Right now, it's not a thing that maybe could rise in the future. I don't know. I think ultimately between them, I do prefer Uncut Gems a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe just because the ending worked better for me in that movie, perhaps. But I do think this is very strong. It's got all the individual things that make it work, and it's it's full of good performances, memorable moments. Some of the stuff is going to be sticking in my head for a while. So yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. It would have been fun to see this at the theater. It would have been fun to, for as much as a movie that's an intense drama about someone who's desperate to get to a ping pong tournament, it's very intense and funny at various points. It's still a bit of a roller coaster, despite not being like an actiony type movie or anything like that.
Right.
So, full points on that front. Which I think clearly means that it makes the cut between our ratings quite happily.
Yep. I literally already had it written down before you even said anything. It just feels natural to go there.
Yep. So there you go. That's Marty Supreme. Next week on the show, our penultimate episode of the season is going to be The Secret Agent. So look forward to that.
Don't know why, but my mind goes to like a Jackie Chan movie. I think there was something where he was like a secret agent at some point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that. All right. To be clear. But yeah, 2025 season's got 2 more episodes, and the next one is The Secret Agent. So we'll see you for that next time. But, of course, you can support the show, Collector's Cut, as well as our other shows, our sci-fi movie podcast with me and David, The Atomic Cinema Experiment. You can support everything by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and you can support us, get access to the ratings rundown segments we do for each episode, and then every month we do a bonus show once a month called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all times. Recently we've done things like DOA, Dead or Alive. We've done things directed by Uwe Boll, Neil Breen, the auteurs of Absolute Slop.
We haven't done a Neil Breen in a while. I'm missing my boy.
Oh, you're missing some Neil Breen? You want to schedule some Neil Breen later this year? We can talk about it.
I want to see how he's going to hack the government and kill everybody, yet also be the hero.
He'll find a way.
Yeah.
He'll find a way. But yes, thanks to everyone who already does support us. It is deeply appreciated and does make all the shows possible. But that is us, everyone. So hopefully you enjoyed this lengthy talk on Marty Supreme. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.